Now would you put your hands together and welcome Justin Ryan to minister to us.
All right. Well, we are going to have some fun this morning. So I thought I would sing a fun song to start off with. It kind of reminds me of the church I grew up in, and some of you may can relate to this song. Well, I could do that.
It's not playing. It's going red.
Hang on, I'll come back there.
Well, for those online, we're having technical difficulties, so just hold on while we are working on trying to get it to work. I do know one Easter joke. What do you call a rabbit with fleas? Bugs Bunny.
But I don't even know my neighbors' names. And every Sunday it's the same, trying to find the answers in the stained glass window. All the sins I carry on my shoulder. Well, it's a wonder that I made it through the door. I broke some golden rules a good book said I should stick to. Does that make me rotten to the core? Yeah, the whispers in the pews, well, they ain't praying for me and you. How can a place so sacred be filled with so much hatred? Me and Jesus, we're as thick as thieves. If you don't believe us, maybe you just don't believe. They may say a guy like me is going straight to hell. Oh, but I think Jesus can love this Jezebel. I met my best friend Jack in Sunday school, singing about the V-I-V-L-E. Learning about the love that purifies each one of us, and in God's eyes we are free. But Jack grew up and fell in love with Adam, and pretty soon the word sure got around. And those folks who'd agreed that Adam should love Eve, well, they kicked Jack and Adam to the ground. Yeah, the whispers in the pews, well, they ain't praying for me and you. If we're covered by the blood, then who are they to judge? 'Cause Jack and Jesus, they're as thick as thieves. If you don't believe us, maybe you just don't believe. They may say gay or straight, we're going straight to hell. Oh, but I think Jesus can love this Jezebel. This little light is mine, I'm gonna let it shine. We've all gotta let it shine. So let me let it shine. So let me let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Me and Jesus, we're as thick as thieves. If if you don't believe us, maybe you just don't believe. They may say if I act this way, I'm going straight to hell. Oh, but I think Jesus can love this Jezebel. Oh, and I know Jesus can love this Jezebel. You'll have to stop these after everyone. But anyway, my name is Justin Ryan. How many of you have never ever seen me before? Oh wow, some of the jokes will be new for you today. But it's so good to see so many faces of so many people. We were talking earlier about when the last time I was here. I was here back in 2014. So I was real young back then. And even before that, I was laughing on the way over here. I was thinking about one time I was here in 2009, I got food poisoning and did a concert sitting up here with food poisoning, which was fun. Today you don't have that, so you don't have to worry about that today. But it's good to be with you. My name is Justin Ryan, and I'm originally from a little town in Kentucky called Paducah. And if you don't know where Paducah's at, oh, well, there you go. Well, if you don't know where it's at, because some people don't, it's on a map. It's right between two little towns. One of them is called Monkey's Eyebrow, and the other one is Possum Trot. So if you can imagine, there were not a whole lot of folks in Paducah like me. I knew I was very different. Let's just get that clear. But I grew up in that church that was kind of like what that song says, where they gossiped more than they helped people, you know? We were in church every time the doors were open. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, if it was a vacation Bible school, a wedding, a funeral, a revival. Basically, anytime there was food at church, we were there, right? But I grew up and started singing in studios in Nashville with a lot of different country artists. And when I go to do a Justin Ryan album, it's always funny because the musicians who are in there know when they leave the session, they're going to get something out of it. They're going to learn a little something. And such was the case on this next song. I had a lesbian friend of mine who sent me this, her version, it was her interpretation of the Lord's Prayer. She sent it to me and I just loved it. And I thought to myself, you know, I don't want people to miss this because, you know, you can listen to a song on the radio and if you don't like the groove of the song, you're just going to move right on past it. And I wanted all of those well-to-do conservative people, I had to put it in their lane, so to speak. So the musician said, well, how do you want this song to sound? And I said, well, let's just make it sound real country, like Duck Dynasty. That'll get them, right? And they said, okay. And we had Loretta Lynn's little 65-year-old steel guitar player playing guitar on this song. And so by the time we got to the end of it, they said, well, why do you want it to sound like Duck Dynasty? And I said, because I, at least by the time we get to the hook line of the song, I want those people to maybe choke on their Chick-fil-A a little bit. Maybe they'll get something out of it, you know? And so this was her song, and so I thought this morning that I would sing it for you, and I think that by the time we get to the end of it, that you will be singing it as well. But this is the lesbian interpretation of the Lord's Prayer, and you can almost hear the duck calls when the track starts. Thy kingdom come to every nation. Thy will be done in everything we do. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from those who think they're you. We've seen a few of those, haven't we? Lord, send us forth to be of service, to build a bridge, to dig the wells, and deliver us from the TV preachers with their narrow minds and very wide lapels. Thy kingdom come to every nation. Thy will be done in everything we do. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from those who think they're you. Lord, deliver us from politicians who drop your name in every speech. Y'all got some in Tennessee. Remember your best friend from high school, as if they practice what they preach. Thy kingdom come to every nation. Thy will be done in everything we do. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from those who think they're you. Send us forth to bring equality to everyone, LGBTQ and straight. Lord, there's a lot of letters now. Remind us all it's how we love that matters. Our only enemy is hate. Thy kingdom come to every nation. Thy will be done in everything we do. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from those who think they're you. Thy kingdom come to every nation. Thy will be done in everything we do. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from those who think they're you. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from those who think they're you. And the church said, Amen, 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 amen. It was funny. After we got done with that session, Loretta Lynn's little 65-year-old steel player came running up to me and said, Justin, I did something for you in that song. And I said, oh, you did? What'd you do? He said, I put one of Loretta Lynn's famous steel licks in the middle of that second verse. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's good. And he goes, you want to know what song it was? And I said, sure. And he said, I put my famous lick from Loretta Lynn's song in the second verse of, you ain't woman enough to take my man. And I said, well, I guess you did learn something today. Oh, but you know, it wasn't always like that for me. When I travel around, I think it's important that we share our own stories. You know, Jesus went to the cross to provide that healing for all of us. And sometimes I think that the only way that we can help others is by taking the scars of our own life and causing them to become kind of sort of a roadmap to lead others to the cross. And that's what the story of my life has been. I told you I grew up in that very conservative town in Kentucky, and I grew up there, and I knew that I was different from a very young age. My parents had a clue because I wanted a kitchen set when I was like 3 or 4, and they wouldn't let me have it. Instead, they gave me He-Man figures. And there's nothing worse for a little gay kid than to have a Muscle Man, He-Man figure as a toy, but I played with it just like it was a Barbie doll. And so when I was about 16 years old, I knew that I was different, and I knew that it wasn't going to be long before other people started to figure that out. And so I had got my first little retail job when I was 16, and I was working at Sears. And I only worked there because as a gay guy, I knew it was the only place I would ever not spend my paycheck. Because all those other places have fancy clothes, and Sears just didn't have anything hip enough. So I worked there, and so there was a little gay guy that worked there, and his name was Carson. He was the only other gay guy I'd ever known at that time, and to this day is the queeniest gay guy I've ever met. And he came up to me one day and he said, you know, Justin, he said, you really need to think about this, and you really need to talk to your family about it because they're going to hear about it from somebody on the street. And I thought, okay. So one day at work, a bunch of the church folks came in, and as they walked past my cubicle where I was, they walked past me and they kept saying, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. And I thought, what is that all about? Finally, they walked past me again, said it again, and about the third time I stopped them and I said, what are you all talking about? What is going on? And they said, well, we just wanted to pray because we didn't want we've heard about you. And I said, you've heard about me? And they said, yeah, you're one of those, and I have to say it like those Kentucky people say it. You're one of those homosexuals. You get every syllable in there you know that you can. And I said, okay. And they said, and we're praying so that none of your gay demons leap into us. And I thought, honey, you could use a few of my gay demons, like big words and hair care products and fashion. And they didn't get that memo. But anyway, the little guy I worked with encouraged me to go home and talk to my parents that night. So it was a Wednesday night. I waited till they'd gotten home from church, and my dad was sitting there, and I thought, well, I'll just go talk to Dad now after church because maybe the Spirit will still be flowing in the room, you know? So I was 17, and I went and talked to him, and I said, hey, Dad, can we talk? And he said, well, just go ahead and say it. And I said, okay, I'm gay. And he said, will you see that door back there? He said, I want you to walk out of it and never return. You're no longer our son, and we don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't know if you can imagine as a 17-year-old child what that's like, but when you're 17, you don't have a whole lot of experience. You don't have a whole lot of support without your family. And here's this big brand new world that you've just been thrust into the middle of that you don't know anything about, and you certainly don't have any experience. And the world is a scary place. But I did the best that I could. I lived out of my car and went to school and worked at Sears until I met somebody who was a little bit older than I was and had a house. And I thought, well, this is what I've given up all this for, is to just be in a relationship and be happy. But at 17 years old, you're not the best judge of character. And I ended up in a relationship with someone who was very abusive. It wouldn't be anything at all for me to go to Sears with a black eye or a broken foot because things at home were just so bad. But I didn't know any better. You know, that was what my existence was. And so one day, I pretty much thought that I was never going to sing again at that point. And they asked me to sing at Sears one night, and I thought, well, that'll be fun. And so I was getting ready to go, and as I was getting ready to go, I went to check my email. And when I shook the mouse, my partner that I was with at the time had left his email up. And on the email was some emails where he'd been cheating. So I went to him and I confronted him about it, and I said, I found these emails. What do you have to say about it? And he said, well, this is my house. He said, you live in it, and if you don't like it, you can leave. And so he left that day and left me there, and I just kind of sat there in my pool of despair and thought to myself, you know what? I finally get it. My family doesn't want me. My friends don't want me. The church doesn't want me. This person I've given it all up to be with doesn't want me, and God certainly doesn't have anything to say to me anymore, so I don't need to be here. So I put my favorite outfit on and dressed way up and lacquered my hair up so nobody'd ever be able to move it, and went in the kitchen and got some of his sleeping pills and some alcohol and laid in my perfect little Lily Munster pose and wanted to die because I just wanted to be there the way that I wanted to be found. And the more I laid there and thought, in my stupor, I thought to myself, well, this is not messy enough. My dad's just going to tell people I had a heart problem or something, and they're not going to know what really happened. So I remember stumbling to the kitchen and getting a knife and cutting myself wherever I could, and then passing out. And when I woke up, I was in the emergency room. Luckily, my partner had forgotten his wallet and he'd come back to get it. But I was mad for a long time because I had survived, because didn't God want me dead too? That's what I'd been told for so many years in that conservative little church. And I just thought that's all it was ever going to be. And so that next chapter of my life was for sure going to be nothing but despair, I thought. Till one day, the little guy at Sears came up to me. He said, well, Justin, have you ever thought about going to church? And I said, honey, I said, that's the problem with this whole situation is the church. And he said, no. He said, I'm talking about a gay church, is how he put it. And I said, a what? He said, a gay church. I said, is that kind of like a more daylight, less smoky version of a bar? And he said, no. He said, it's church. And believe it or not, at the time, Paducah did not have a gay bar, but we had an MCC church. And so he nagged me for weeks, and I wasn't sure I was even going to go. And when I tell you that he was the queeniest guy I've ever met, he would take those sticks that they take and get the clothes off the top of the rack up there that are real high. He would take that and twirl it down the aisle like it was a baton every day. So I knew if I didn't go, he was going to nag me every day forever. So finally, I decided to go one Sunday. Dressed way up. I didn't get the memo. I mean, look around you. None of us are dressed up. But I didn't get the memo, and so I dressed way up and showed up way past gay standard time and sat on the very back row so that whatever was back there was not going to get me. And I'm here to tell you, I couldn't tell you much about what the pastor said that day. I couldn't tell you what the songs were that were sung that day. But what I can tell you is that same feeling that I felt when I was a kid, that little kid who loved church and who loved to go sing in church and be a part of everything that had to offer, I began to feel some of those same feelings again. And I know it was the still small voice of God coming in when I needed it the most. When I needed it the most. And it was just one of those times in my life when I just thought I'd reached the end. Aren't you glad in all of those times that we go through that no matter how bad it seems, no matter how hard it gets, that very still small voice of God creeps in when we need it the most, and it just simply says this: I am not the challenge, and I am not the war. Children, please lay down your armor. You don't need it anymore. You've been building your defenses since you were just a kid, but they're not gonna serve you now the way that they once did. 'Cause I'm not the enemy, my child, you don't understand, so you keep fighting me. I'm not the enemy, I am the one who loves you like you've never been loved. I'm not the enemy. And you've drawn a line between your heart and mine that I can't cross. But I'm still on your side, even when you think I'm not. My child, I would show you if you just let down your guard long enough to see it doesn't have to be this hard. 'Cause I'm not the enemy, you just don't understand, so you keep fighting me. I'm not the enemy, I am the one who loves you like you've never been loved. I'm not the enemy. 'cause I'm not the enemy, my child. You don't understand, so you keep fighting me. I'm not the enemy, I am the one who loves you like you've never been loved, who loves you like you've never been loved. I'm not the enemy. Well, I'm glad that the story didn't end there. After that service, I was feeling like, God and I might start to be kind of getting on the same page. But I wasn't sure about the rest of those folks, because MCC Paducah had some characters. Let me just put it that way. So the minute that service was over with, I was straight for the door. And so the pastor had known me from singing in a band out of our hometown that was pretty popular. So as I was walking out the door, she came running up there and she said, "Why, Justin Ryan, we're glad you're here." She said, "And I've got you in our program next week to sing." I just looked at her and I said, "Well, that's sweet, darling, but I don't do that anymore, and I appreciate it. I don't even know if I'm going to be here next week." And she just looked at me and she said, "Well, like I said, I got you in our program to sing. Service next week is at this time. You can be here at this time to do a sound check." I don't know if you have seen a Paducah, Kentucky lesbian or not, but when you are a 17, 18-year-old little gay boy, you just shake your head and say, "Yes, ma'am." And so needless to say, the next Sunday I sang. And one by one, God started to give me back things that I never thought I would have. Shortly after that, Marcia Stevens came to the church, and she kind of kidnapped me and took me with her, and I kind of got to go all over. And what I thought was plan A, which was singing, was always plan A. It just didn't look like what I thought it looked like. What plan A actually was to reach out to people that other folks weren't reaching out to. And isn't that what Jesus did? Isn't that what each one of us is called to do? It kind of reminds me of a story about a young woman who had surgery to remove a tumor from her face. The doctor went in and he was trying to remove the tumor, and when he went in there, he severed a nerve in her cheek, and it caused her to be paralyzed on that side of her face. And her husband, was in there with her, and the doctor came in to tell them, that she was going to be paralyzed, and the wife was so distraught. And the husband just kind of looked at her and he said, "But you know what, honey?" He said, "I kind of like it." He said, "It's kind of like a wry grin." And he twisted his face up to match hers and leaned in to kiss her, to let her know that their kiss still works. And isn't that exactly how God is with each and every one of us? God sent Jesus to become as battered and broken as you and I are, to meet us where we're at, to let us know that the kiss still works. I'm a single man, going on 33. And folks are probably wondering if there's something wrong with me. Shouldn't you be married by now? Find a nice girl and settle down. But God knows that kind of life ain't in the cards for me. I'm not like most other men. I guess I've always been different. I was a mama's boy, kind of a sensitive kid. They'd say fight back like a man, but I never did. When other boys would bully me, I'd turn the other cheek. Always gentle, mild and meek. Some things you just can't change, and I've always been this way, different. So do I make you nervous? nervous just a little bit? Could you want me as your neighbor? Would you trust me with your kids? Are you afraid of me 'cause I'm not like you? And is there any one of us who isn't different? Some like to criticize the way I live my life. You see, I like my wine and I spend my time with a bunch of guys. And I ain't ashamed to admit some of my best friends, see, they live their lives and sometimes die out on the edge. You might call them whores and freaks, but they're just like me, different. So do I make you nervous just a little bit? Could you love me as your neighbor? Would you trust me with your kids? Are you afraid of me 'cause I'm not like you? And is there any one of us who isn't different? My name is Jesus, and I live in Galilee. And there's an angry crowd outside right now coming after me. You've never seen such fear, never seen such hate. And if I'm right before tonight, I will be betrayed with a kiss from another man. That's how they'll know I am different. Oh, I am different. Don't you know we're all different? Ooh, different. And you know, I love this time of year because it's the time of year when we remember just exactly how different Jesus was. You know, it's the reason that we're all here. And I know that in today's world, so many of us, or at least I do at times, sometimes I feel more watched than I feel seen. You know what I mean? Especially in the country that we live in. Sometimes we just feel like people are too busy watching us instead of just hearing us and seeing us. But the good thing about it is that God never stops listening, even when those in our world do. And you know, I always think back to the end of every morning service that I ever went to as a kid, and they had that scary term called altar call. I don't know, when you say altar call, you can almost feel the flames of hell or feel the cold breeze, or I don't know. But for me, what that always consisted of was a big male gluttonous pastor was going to stand up here and make you feel horrible until you came up here and said every horrible thing you'd ever done since you were 2, and then they were going to say some magic words, and poof, instead of going to hell, you were just going to go to the Golden Corral after service. But that's not what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about is that the dominion of God dwells within you. You know, we've heard so many people in our lives talk about sin that we don't know what real sin is. And real sin is just the things that separate us from God. The hatred, the bitterness, the addictions, all the things that don't have to leave the room with us. And, you know, we're all kind of a big family, and you don't have to come up here and make a big pronouncement. I'm sure there's all kinds of people here that would pray with you later on in the service if you need that. But I encourage you, if there's something that you need today, I know from experience that it works and that God is here for you today. So I'm going to sing one more song before I go, and I'll come back later and sing another one. But I just want to leave you with this thought today because, you know, we have a lot of friends out there who, especially with so many different opinions that go on in today's world, friends may leave us, But there's that ultimate friend in God who is always there for us. So if you know this song as I'm singing it, sing along with me, okay? What a friend we have in Jesus, and all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. And oh, what peace we often forfeit, and oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Have we
If we have
trials and
temptations,
is there
and if there's
trouble anywhere? We should never be discouraged.
Because all we have to do
Take it
is
to
take it to the Lord in
in
prayer.
prayer. And can we find a friend so faithful who will all our sorrows share? Jesus knows our every weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer.
Thank you, Justice. We want to give everyone the opportunity to give a love offering to Justice, as well as to give your regular tithes and offerings. We invite those on site to place their regular church offering in the offering box by the prayer table, and to place their love offering in the offering plate as it's passed. If it's passed, is it being passed? Okay, it's been passed. For those online, please use the drop-down menu to choose General Fund for your regular offerings and Love Offering for your gift for Justin's ministry. The text to give and website information is there on the screen.
Sitting in church singing how I love Jesus, feeling good about everything. But come Monday morning, you're walking a picket line, you're carrying a sign that says, God hates bags, what a drag, when you choose to speak for me without any compassion, without charity. That's not what I meant. You misunderstood. Love, don't judge, give, don't take, bless, don't blame. You got it all wrong when you fail to see the lesson I taught on that tree. Oh, you'll ask for forgiveness, and I'll never see you repent. You can hate in my name, that's not what I meant. Some of these young kids who've been bullied and murdered, you don't care 'cause they're not straight. But numbly you'll sit and watch CNN, and at 9:45, we're bombing Baghdad. What a drag, you take it so casually. see if that's all it costs for your liberty. That's not what I meant, you misunderstood. Love don't judge, give, don't take, molest, don't blame. You got it all wrong when you fail to see the lesson I taught on that tree. Oh, you'll ask for forgiveness, and I'll never see you repent. You can't kill in my name, that's not what I meant. The hurt and confused, the broken and abused. How I love, yeah, that's what I meant. Can you understand? Love don't judge, give, don't take, molest, don't blame. You won't get it wrong when you finally see the reason I died on that tree. Oh, you'll ask for forgiveness, and I'll finally see you repent. When you love in my name, yeah, that's what I meant. You can't hate in my name, that's not what I meant. That's not what